Hello and welcome to the All Seeing One podcast. My name's Kyle J. Macias, and today, a special guest, I have Fernando EnaArmony. How are you doing today, Fernando?
Very well, thank you. And how are things over there in California?
It's good. It's kind of mixed. What's happening right now is we have some counties, I believe. I live in Los Angeles County, but we have Orange County and some other counties in California that are refusing to do any more of the lockdown proceedings. So that's a good sign. I think it is because it's totally blown out of proportion here. And Los Angeles is basically like crumbling into flames. It's just dying. It's dying.
Yeah.
So today's topic is the Merkaba. I really wanted to focus on the Merkaba in relation to Enoch's Ascent, and as well as who is Melchizedek, because for people that don't know, Melchizedek, the way that they describe him in the ancient scriptures in the Bible is that he had no mother, had no father, had no genealogy, had no beginning or end. So that's kind of weird. And then when I look up in the Greek, people that translate it, they try to kind of make it like, oh, no documentation that he had no father and mother. But when you read the actual literature of the Bible, it actually means like he literally had no father and mother. So we'll look into that. But Fernando, I want to start off with the Merkaba, because I feel like online there's a lot of misinformation about the Merkaba. It seems like a lot of just misinformation. So from your research, the Merkaba, what's the significance of that, and how ancient is the Merkaba?
Well, in simple terms, the Merkaba is the vortex of the soul, the way energy moves when the mind, the vitality, and the emotions are working together. This generates a spin of energy that takes you wherever you want to go if you have the Merkaba, but very few people develop a Merkaba because that's the soul. And there are two types. There is the lower Merkaba, which was used in ancient civilizations. The Egyptian civilization, the Chinese also know certain types of Merkabas in India. And they can travel to many places using this soul technology. Even other species, which are not human, know these technologies. And they travel even from planet to planet using Merkabas, which are usually seen as balls of light. When people see sometimes UFOs, they are not machines. They are literal souls flying from one place to another. But there is an original Merkaba, which is the one that expresses the primordial life. And this is the Merkaba imprinted on our original light DNA. And it unfolds like the divine logos, the divine intelligence, the divine verb. Those are expressions to translate properly the Yud He Vav or Yud He Vav He. And this is a way of understanding this in a more simple way, without complications.
Okay, so I guess it's like a soul. Because in my research, it's a chariot, right? Going back to the Hebrew mystics, is that true?
That's the ancient metaphor, because the ancients knew that the chariots had horses. It had like the sticks connecting the horses to the chariot, and then the driver and the passenger. But if you notice, different teachings describe the soul in this way, but not all of them are complete. Most of them have just two horses, which are positive and negative emotions. Then the driver, which is the mind, and the chariot itself would be the body. That's the comparison to the soul in simple terms. But in India, they describe 5 horses, which represent the five senses, spiritual senses, and also carnal senses, especially the carnal senses. Then they have Krishna as charioteer, that's the mind. But there is no passenger. And the complete Merkaba, in those terms, would be the 10 horses, which are the 5 spiritual senses and 5 spiritual carnal senses. Then the sticks connecting the horses to the chariot, those sticks are a type of energy. I'd say an emotional magnetic energy. Then you have the reins that the charioteer holds, and this is the mind, the mental body, that can direct the emotions, which are the horses. Then we have the passenger, which would be the true self, the true identity. Unfortunately, human beings are not connected to the true self, and they behave as if they were in a taxi where different types of personalities get in. So they lack the true primordial chariot, which is just a metaphor, it's not something real. Even Santa Claus has a chariot, and that's an allusion to the soul type that can be built with horses, emotional body, vital body, and mental body. But this is incomplete. We need the fourth body, which is primordial. It comes from the uncontaminated realm, the true reality, where there is no death and there is no karma, there are no debts. So the chariot of the primordial source is pure, is uncontaminated. But remember, this is not literal. Those were just metaphors to explain something very deep. And I think they were very good metaphors because you can explain many details. The connection between the dead horses was known as the yoke. And that's the origin of yoga. My yoke is easy and my burden is light, said Master Yeshua. Because the emotions in the Messiah consciousness, if that's an appropriate expression, are lighter. They are an energy that unites. They are based on compassion, love, understanding, and they are connected to the mind of the Messiah, which is not just any mind, but a mind focused on helping others to be connected to the unified field of the tree of life. And then the passenger is our true self, which is an atom from the primordial father, the father of lights. And it's the father in a sense, because it's his will, the seed that must unfold.
You know what was interesting is I came across another podcast, and they're interviewing this one author called Michael C. King, and he was talking about basically spirit travel, astral projection, and it was interesting because the woman said, the woman that was interviewing him, she said, she's all, if I remember correctly, she said something like, well, with my conscious mind, I have to make the decision to follow God, to make sure I'm in the right, to make sure that I'm not doing anything bad like astral projection or spirit travel. And then the author told him, he said, he's all, you don't have to really do anything with your conscious mind. He's all, your soul is already knows the answer. Your soul's already connected to God. And it reminded me of what you said back a couple episodes ago. You said something like the divine soul, it's not contaminated. Oh no, it was one of your videos. You said the divine soul, the divine essence connected to the I am is not full of sin. And I thought that was interesting because most people think that their whole essence, their whole body, mind, soul, and spirit is full of sin, and they have to constantly repent. So that's interesting with what you're saying with the Merkaba. Well, so a part of the Merkaba is connected to Source, right? Is connected to the I amness, the Tree of Lives.
It depends what kind of Merkaba, because Merkaba comes from the Egyptian language, Merkaba. Mer is union of the Ka, which is the vital body, and the Ba, which is the mental aspect. It has also memories from different personalities that we inhabit. And the Ba, if it's an old Adamic soul, well, that's part of an old Merkaba. It's a fallen Merkaba full of transgression. It needs repair. But in primordial terms, we wouldn't be speaking so much of a Merkaba, or we would use more the expression Tree of Life, because it's more organic, more vivified. Merkaba is an Egyptian term. Remember that the Israelites were captive in Egypt, and they were using words that were related to the teachings of Egypt. So I'm not sure where the Egyptians took that. I can find the expression Merkaba in other religions. For instance, in Islamic religion, they go to Mecca as part of their commandments or obligations, and they spin around the Kaaba. It's a square, a cube, where there is a stone that came from heaven, and they spin around this place. And this is a metaphor of some Merkaba, which is the lower Merkaba. I think this is a representation of how souls are trapped in this matrix, the cube of the matrix. And we need to realize that when we are connected to the real Tree of Life, we are already outside. We don't have to get out. We just come into the matrix in order to help. And in that sense, well, we have a Merkaba, obviously, because we have a physical body that develops a vital body, an emotional body, and a mental body. That would be a possibility of Merkaba, but we have to unite those aspects. Not everyone has a soul Merkaba. That's a process of inner work, so to say. Some people have an embryo soul, others have a baby soul, and most people just have a potential soul. They spend most part of their life in an animalistic, hypnotized way, so we cannot say everyone has a Merkaba. And those who can astral project have a Merkaba, but this is not necessarily a Tree of Life. You can astral project with a lower Merkaba and go wherever you want. I had experiences in which I was traveling without knowing outside my body, but I realized that's useless. That's a way of getting caught into the external darkness or the outer darkness. Because in the true reality, everything is known from within outwards. We don't need to get out of the body. We can know everything here and now. Or we can be taken somewhere, but the purpose, the goal is always known. There is always a connection with the masters, with our life, with the true master of life. There is not an individual separated action. There is no one that acts on its own in the Tree of Life. We are all connected. That would be the difference, I think.
So one thing that represents the Merkaba is the star tetrahedron, and I found this on the internet. I thought it was pretty spot on. It says the star tetrahedron is the electric balance to magnetism. This is how data is stored so efficiently within a computer. It says also it is this geometric shape that provides for memory. And the word memory takes its origins from the ancient Hebrew word mem, which means water, or ar, which means spirit. So is that accurate, Fernando, from your research? Because I know it's kind of hard to research these. Oh, hello. Can you hear me? It sounds like you broke up a little bit.
Yes, I can perfectly hear you.
I got some weird feedback. Did you hear that? It sounded like a transformer, like a robot. You didn't hear that?
Yes, yes,
Oh, you did hear it.
yes. I
Oh, okay, it's just some feedback. Okay. Um. So Fernando, um, is that statement online about the star tetrahedron accurate? Because that's what represents the Merkaba right now.
Yes, the tetrahedron are two um, pyramids crossing each other of the movement of energy from the bottom or lower energy levels and the deeper vibrations. When we unite up and down, we can get a Merkaba. The Star of David would be the V-dimensional plane representation. And I have a video where I explained with vortex mathematics how that works, because it's not really a Star of David. The two tetrahedrons crossing each other, they are representing a movement of energy. And expressing numbers, that would be 396. The 9 would be the potential energy, the 3 would be the union of opposites, reconciliation, and 6 would be the expression of the soul personality. 3 plus 6 is 9. Those are the basic numbers that repeat over and over all throughout the manifested world, but it depends on the purpose, because the dark forces have been able to use that science for evil purposes. So it's not a synonym of true life. There can be Merkabas used for traveling to other places and spy or get information from people without them knowing it. So that description, I think, is accurate, but this is just a technological description or an artistic approximation. There are many more details. Those are just clues. Then there is a process of inner work, the union of mind, body, and heart, in order to generate that increase of vibrations in ourselves. And this is a work that not everyone is doing right now.
I believe it's what Enoch effectively did, which led to his rapture or his ascent or his quantum leap. Some people are calling it. So let's transition into that. The because I'm reading a couple books about Jewish mysticism, and they claim that Enoch and who else? Ezekiel, they had the Merkaba chariot essence that helped them ascend into the heaven realms, and they talk about multiple heavens, which I know you've talked about as well. So with Enoch, like it's weird. Like, who do you think Enoch was, first of all, and then second of all, how did he achieve that Merkaba / chariot ascent?
Well, Enoch, to me, was one of the first manifestations on Earth of the first, I would say the Messiah, but not in a complete way. It was one of the manifestations of the Messiah, because he was called Metatron in some Hebrew teachings. And there are many ways of proving that the scripture was speaking about Enoch. But the scriptures that people know don't mention Metatron as such. That's found in Enoch 3 and in other Hebrew teachings. But Enoch was a man that was able to raise the vibration of his body up to the vibration of his soul, and both merge to such an extent that he had the capability of using the Merkaba consciously and ascending to, let's say, deeper densities of vibration, not necessarily up and down in a sense of spatial movement, but dimensional travel. He could materialize and dematerialize, and thus get into contact with the primordial family. Actually, he was taken, and he acquired such a level of development that he became a teacher for future generations. Even after the deluge, he was actually the teacher of Moses. When Moses received teachings, he was being taught by Metatron and the circle of Metatrons, because there are several manifestations of Metatron. This is a title associated with the incarnation of the divine intelligence, the Logos, and it's one of the titles attributed to the Messiah, but not in a complete form. That came later, and it's still manifesting, because the Messiah is an intelligence that manifests progressively, depending on the epoch and the situation and the need of humanity. The greatest manifestation until now has been that of the man that was called Yeshua, because just Yeshua means salvation by means of the Logos, the divine intelligence. And he was also belonging to the order of Melchizedek. Both Master Ishu and Enoch belong to that order, because Melchizedek, we can speak about that later, but is a title, a code for the right manifestation of energy and intelligence, the right distribution. Melchi comes from Melech, which is master, or Malak, messenger. Some would say king, but that's a political expression which is biased, just as the religious idea of a king in a kingdom with a Lord God. Those are distorted expressions. Enoch was one of the first manifestations on earth of the true order of intelligence, Melchizedek. Even in Chinese, we find the expression chi, which is energy, and in Greek as well, he, psyche, Melchizedek. Ki is energy, tzedek is an allusion to justice, but in the sense of harmonious distribution. Tzedakah is distributing energy, distributing gifts so others can have. We give because we have. We don't give to receive, as many people say. We give life because we have life. We give love because we have love. And those who give harmoniously begin to be part of the tree of life, and also, why not, the order of Melchizedek, if they have attained such level of vibration. And Enoch was literally taken to different levels of the 7 heavens. But he also came with the purpose of separating the wheat from the chaff. Actually, in Jude 1:14, we read that it was also about this that Enoch, the 7th from Adam, prophesied, saying, "Behold, Yud-Heh-Vav-He, the bird, the divine intelligence and body manifesting, comes with 10,000 of his holy ones to execute judgment on all and to convict all the ungodly of all their deeds and ungodliness that they have committed in such an ungodly way, and all the harsh things that ungodly sinners have spoken against him." This is a religious language that mistake or bypass the real meaning, but basically it's saying that the manifestation of Enoch brought an awakening right before the flood so that people could discern within themselves and increase the vibrations so they would not be absorbed by the catastrophe that was coming. Enoch knew something was going to happen, and Noah was another symbol of the humans that knew, because they all were in contact with the intelligence that expresses what is the purpose on earth and realizes that humanity has broken many laws because of the influence of dark lords, dark fallen architects. And many fallen messengers are working for those architects. And Enoch also met those fallen messengers. But that's another part of the story.
Yeah, I've been reading more of the book of Enoch, and it's a trip. It says that Enoch turned into an angel, or he he received the attributes of an angel. Do you think that's true, or that's like more metaphorical?
Well, angel means messenger, so he was a messenger, of course. Many of us are messengers in flesh bodies, so we are also angels in that sense.
Oh, okay. So yeah. Okay, I see exactly what you're saying. Um, that is interesting. I remember researching that a long time ago when I was researching angels, and it's a trip that, yeah, it means messenger. It's just it's a job description. It's not what the entities or the species that God created is. But I'm noticing too, a lot of what's around us is actually just hybrid entities created by these fallen architects too. A lot of these like what you call divine family or angels are like they're around us, but I guess in different dimensions. Like one guy I interviewed, he said that when he astral projected a couple of times, he says he did see what perhaps looked like to be angels, and then he says, and then I would see reptilians around people. So what's up with the astral projection? If we can go out on a little tangent right now, with astral projection, that's different than the Merkaba travel, or is that the same?
No, astral projection is a sort of Merkaba travel, but some people do it unconsciously. And the Merkaba implies having some consciousness, some mental body that can direct. Actually, the last time I had an accidental out-of-body experience, I found myself very high on the sky at night, and I was traveling very fast. And suddenly I realized, where am I going? So I simply turned my mind back to the physical body, and I realized how I fell very fast. This means my mental body was leading the Merkaba back to my body. The Merkaba is just the vortex, the projection. But very few people are able to travel that way. There was a tremendous pioneer in that in that scope and he was called Robert Monroe. His books are incredible, amazing. Journey out of the body, far journeys, and he describes his conscious journeys because he was born to bring a message, I think, and he was given the capacity to travel outside of the body. And the way he did it means he had a mental body developed to use the Merkaba consciously. Other people use drugs. That's not a legitimate use of the Merkaba because that means they don't have the development. If they need drugs, it's because they are undeveloped and didn't understand. But this man was able to project without any drug, even though he found out it's possible to trigger out-of-body experience by means of hemisync technology with using aural beats or different frequencies projected into the right hemisphere and left hemisphere in order to generate a third vibration in the brain. And this can trigger actually an out-of-body experience. But the problem is the same. If you don't have developed a mental body to be aware and to understand what you are doing, you can have an experience with the Merkaba, but the understanding is going to be very low or even distorted. There can be hallucinations, misinterpretations. Most of the religious experience, mystics experience, they are examples of how people distort, misinterpret what they see. And that's the origin of many religions too. Hallucination.
Wow. So what's kind of a weird Matrix message is the Metatron, right? So Enoch Metatron, and then you have the Transformers movie of Megatron. Do you think there's a Matrix message there or some type of esoteric, I don't know, download? Because I notice in the Matrix, within films, movies, anything pop culture, they kind of throw in little hints here and there. I don't know if it's from people, the worldwide unconscious, or if it's from these fallen angels trying to give information, or if it's God infusing truth so people find divine truth. Do you think there's a relation there, or you think I'm overthinking it?
Well, I think practically the 99% of movies come from dark sources. The information they give belongs to the Matrix and is to keep people informed about what is happening, but they don't give the exit keys. They don't teach about the genuine tree of life. It's all about technology, quantum leaps, transformations that involve some sort of secrets or mechanisms or getting into contact with lost brotherhoods and things like that. I think they remain in a very dark way in most movies, especially Hollywood, because Hollywood is, as you know, the magical wand, Hollywood, and they move the wand to anesthetize people and lead the masses towards a certain view of the world which they want to implant. Actually, we are little by little being shown what is the real intention. The globalist intention is to generate a world where everyone is thinking the same, eating the same rubbish through all media, not just physical food, but everywhere. And the cinema is a very powerful source of deception, I think.
Yeah, there's some movies I watch where I'd go into the theater and I'm like, you know what? Something feels dark. Like it doesn't have to even be like a scary film, but something feels dark or kind of like the only way I could describe it is almost as if someone on the set or an actor or a writer did witchcraft on the film or asked for or requested help from dark entities to make either this movie scarier or more successful or more effective. And I guess because I'm more spiritually awake and more attuned than other people, when I sit in the theater, I could feel it and I go, I'm not scared. I just feel uncomfortable. I go, I just feel, it doesn't feel right. If something feels off, I can't watch the rest of this film. So I'll leave and get my money back. Some films to me are fine, but other films are more like, no, someone did witchcraft on this and I don't want to be subject to that. Like, if I know they're doing it, why would I allow myself to be influenced? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what do you think? Like, okay, it's just trippy to me. It's just like, for me, what I sense with Megatron is that maybe he kind of does represent Metatron from the Jewish mystics and the Kabbalah, and maybe they're kind of, well, I'm talking about Hollywood, but the actual character came from cartoons, and he was called Megatron. So I guess maybe that Japanese culture, maybe they took from Metatron. I don't know. I was just kind of thinking there probably is some kind of relation there. But I digress. The what's the relation between the Merkaba tetrahedron symbol and the Metatron's cube? That's like a Kabbalist thing, right?
Yeah. Well, the Metatron's cube, it's the structure of the matrix. I'm not sure why people call it Metatron cube, but the wisdom comes from a book called Sefer Yetzirah. It's attributed to Abraham, and that gives all the astrological and cosmological principles that run the universe in which we are immersed. The relation of the four elements, earth, water, fire, air, with all the signs, which in Hebrew are called mashalim, servants. And there are also three mother letters, which are the energies. Mem is water, Shin is fire, and the action of fire and water give vapor, air, which is Aleph. Those three energies interact with the four, excuse me, with the four elements, and they generate a display of energies which somehow can generate a matrix when they are not harmonized. And Metatron cube is the complete structure of all the interactions. But only when you are really aware, when you are conscious of who you are, that you are outside of anything belonging to a system, then you can be free from those interactions. You are not trapped into the cube. I don't know if you have seen the movie Cube. There are different movies, but it's called Cube, and it's about a group of people who are trapped inside a cube, and they have to move the walls in order to go into the next level, and they get killed with traps and things like this. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, but I'm looking it up as you're talking. I'll look up the
Because
trailer.
that's exactly what Metatron's cube seems to be representing, because I found out that when we are born, we come into a portal which is determined by the day, the month, the year, and all this somehow constricts our soul, making it behave with a limited set of behaviors. We are more emotional or more mental. I am an Aquarian. I was born in February, and I tend to be very mental, so I have to harmonize and go back to the body. Otherwise, I'm caught into the Metatron cube of myself, of my soul. I'd say when you illumine the Metatron cube, you can go beyond and understand there is a greater cosmos. But when you are unconscious, responding mechanically with your fallen personality, then you are trapped in a group of shadow personalities that are trapped in outer darkness, the inside part of the Metatron cube, which is the matrix, the false universe. Therefore, we have to expand our consciousness.
That's what I kind of sense too. I feel like a lot of these things, these ancient secrets, these ancient mysteries, I feel like they're all tools to help us, but they can also, if they're used in the wrong way, or if people don't know what they're getting into, period, it could exactly be a trap. And I think the dark side knows this, and they'll share knowledge with you, but it's meant to keep you in a trap and ultimately to harvest you. I kind of want to jump back a little bit to astral projection. I'm gonna send you a scene, and I want your take on it. So let me know if you get it. It's an email. It's a clip from the film Insidious, and it's a scene where he astral projects. And I kind of want your input on what exactly is happening here that's being interpreted by these filmmakers, because I want to know, is the Merkaba being activated? Is it something dark, sinister? Let me know when you have it up.
Yeah, I have it here.
Remember why you're traveling and keep one foot in this world. Do not draw attention to yourself. If they realize you are not one of them, they will come for your physical body in this world. Ready?
I don't know what I'm ready for.
Close your eyes, Josh. Take a deep breath and relax. With each breath, let the life around you fade into the background. Just listen to the ticking of the metronome. Focus on the spot in the center of your forehead. The universe is deathless. It's deathless because having no finite self, it stays infinite. A sound man, by not advancing himself, stays the further ahead of himself.
It's useless. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Now you're inside. Let my voice be your guide. Keep a steady stride into the further you go.
Okay, we'll stop it there. So, what's going on here in this scene? Because I know a lot of times, because obviously I've made a documentary and a couple of short films, and and we know how Hollywood works. People tap into their psyche, the global unconscious, especially when they're writing scripts, and sometimes they can tap into some truths, or some maybe dark truths. So what do you think is going on here, Fernando, regarding Merkaba, astral projection, even the way he was initiated into crossing over?
Yeah, this is a typical astral projection without Merkaba. There is no Merkaba there because when there is a Merkaba, there is a ball of light. There is pure light and spinning energy. It's very scary when you have one of the Merkaba experiences if you are not prepared for it. And this is just coming out of the body. But it depends on the person. Some people have an astral body which is not properly formed, and they might feel as if they are getting out of the body in a spiral and they are floating around their body without being able to control the situation. Sometimes the person might be taken by a force that they don't understand. It depends, because everyone is different. And in most cases, it just involves the astral body, the body which is not immortal. It can survive after physical death, even for a couple of hundred of years. And after that time, that body dies. And usually when we are still existing in a physical body, some people might have what is known as Ibur, or even a greater development, which is the baby stage, in which another soul that wants to evolve gets into our astral body and continues evolving within our astral soul. That's known in Hebrew as Ibur. And the person can get intuitions and even be taken out of the body by this additional help. The soul that attaches to another soul that way is not negative. It's never evil. It's not going to possess the person, because those are just parts of the soul of Adam that are being reintegrated, and some of them are more evolved and can help each other. But those who have the connection with the universal Messiah, let's say Yeshua or Yeshua, can have an upgrade. They can have access to a deeper wisdom and understanding, because they already know what's the point of being here on earth. They can understand their shadows, negative influences. So people who are connected to the Messiah are not interested in this type of astral projections. They can happen or they can be necessary in a particular part of our life so that we are instructed. I know people who have been taken to other places in order to be instructed about what they had to tell on earth. And many of us have met different beings or brothers of light outside of the body in order to get information, to release it, to make it free, so people can find a way to the true reality. It's a very extensive subject.
So I want to get your take on this too. I pulled up this Bible verse, 2 Corinthians 5, take on it, and I'll read it here. It says, "For we know that if our earthly tent we lived in is destroyed, we have a building from God, an eternal house in heaven, not built by human hands. Meanwhile, we groan, longing to be clothed instead with our heavenly dwelling, because when we are clothed, we will not be found naked. For while we are in this tent, we groan and are burdened because we do not wish to be unclothed, but to be clothed instead with our heavenly dwelling, so that what is mortal may be swallowed up by life. Now the one who has fashioned us for this very purpose is God, who has given us the Spirit as a deposit, guaranteeing what is to come. Therefore, we are always confident and know that as long as we are at home in the body, we are away from the Lord." So Fernando, maybe I pull up the wrong verse, but this verse kind of makes sense. Like talking about it, to me, it sounds like it's talking about the spirit body and the different elements. And I think it relates to the Merkaba astral projection. So would you say that some people, they're kind of operating in that not destroyed, but kind of like the lower soul, huh? When they astral project, they're not doing the actual Merkaba or the healthy Merkaba, the higher or elevated Merkaba to connect to the tree of lives, right?
Absolutely. Witches, sorcerers, warlocks use a fallen Merkaba, and they can do many things, but they cannot have this immortal body 2 Corinthians 5 mentions.
Wow, that makes sense because, well, to me sometimes I get kind of confused. Like, why are these high-ranking warlocks, witches, sorcerers, hardcore? You know, they're dark. They kill people for these powers. They sacrifice. They torture souls, and they work with demons and higher elevated entities. Why is this able to happen? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, because they're still kind of operating in the consciousness that God's inside God's consciousness. Is this a part of God that's the fallen part of God, or am I mistaken?
Well, it's part of the fallen Elohim. God is a very ambiguous term. Let's say that within the absolute, everything can happen. But that doesn't mean everything that happens is in harmonia with absolute love, absolute life, absolute conscience. There can be darkness when true love is obscured, when true light is cut off because of the formation of shells, clipots, obstructions. Then we are living in a planet where there is a literal intervention by evil forces, forces that are contrary, give up because they know they cannot survive. So that's their only chance to survive, which is getting life from others. But their time is over. The enemy has been judged. This was said by the master, because there are periods of time. And right now we have reached a very similar period of time as that lived by Enoch, because he and his family came as a sort of precursor of what was coming, and was announcing that there was going to be a change. And right now we are about to experience a change, a global change, but this more spiritual. Many people will still be deceived and absorbed by the culture, but the transformation will start to speed up inwardly. And many people will begin to understand many of these things or get interested. Obviously, those who are new or those who came from another planet and they are just lost, they might not have the chance to understand what is taking place. So we are a privileged part of humanity, I'd say.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I feel like there's going to be a global Merkaba, if you will, a healthy one connected to the Tree of Lives that's elevating the whole planet. But I want the one thing I want to end on is the Melchizedek, the order of Melchizedek, the origin of Melchizedek. Once more, I want to go over it even deeper. But before we do that, you mentioned some people come from different planets. That's interesting because I feel like I've been getting synchronicities of that. What do you mean by that? Like some souls, are they aliens on another planet and they incarnate here for a season? Or is it more like there's a group of souls which we're all connected to that travels from planet to planet trying to ascend in our whole vast universe? Because I think it is kind of arrogant to think that, Earth is the only one that's inhabited.
Well, Earth is inhabited by souls from the Pleiades, from Andromeda, from Sirius. They come from many parts, and this is known since many years ago, thousands of years ago. It's found in myths, in walled temples, in scriptures. So there is nothing new about that. Humanity nowadays is so ignorant and arrogant that tends to ignore all these things. But it's obvious that many people come from other star systems because they have memories. And one of the most abundant are those from the Pleiades. I have a fellow who says that many of us come from the Pleiades. I don't know. There might be a spiritual connection because in the book of Job, it says that there is a sweet influence from the Pleiades. And supposedly, when more souls, more beings come from that place, there is an increase of consciousness on Earth. There might be a wave coming from different places in order to help. And others might come to graduate, to finish their education in the cosmos, so to say, because this is a tough place. If you go through the Earth and don't get crazy in the process, then you are a true master of life and light. And you can teach maybe in other planets like Enoch did. Enoch, for instance, was not the first time manifesting. He was probably coming from other parts, and he belonged to the cosmic body. This is why he is regarded as sort of precursor of the Messiah. And he belonged to the order of Melchizedek because that's what comes from the source, from the primordial origin. The divine mind speaking through a man or a group of true men, because those people were not just humans as we understand humans. They were taller, they were much stronger, they were much healthier because the blood and the flesh was not corrupted before the so-called flood. Therefore, they had access to a spiritual manifestation that nowadays is very hard to manifest, but it will come because now we have the mind of the Messiah that manifested 2,000 years ago, and we can be extensions of that intelligence. Therefore, we can recognize people from other planets. People have memories, and this is an increasing phenomenon. I have memories of coming from a place of light without form, and who knows how deep that is. But obviously, I didn't originate it on this earth. I'm very sure about that.
Wow, to me, we should go in depth on that in another episode, the origins of humanity, but spiritually speaking, soul, the origins of the soul. I know, we come from the tree of life, but I just want to know more about the interplanetary travel. I feel like that's coming to the planet as well. I feel like, especially with the Trump administration forming the Space Force, and then you got SpaceX now. A lot of they want to travel to Mars and put people on Mars. I feel like that's where humanity is going, more towards space travel, visiting different planets. I wouldn't be surprised, actually, if maybe within the next 10 years we discover life at a different planet. Maybe people that kind of look like us. I don't think if we find actual aliens on different planets, I don't think they'll look like the reptilians, the insectoids, the greys, because those are the fallen ones. Those are the hybrid entities. I think they would look more like human in nature.
I think actually they have found many of these beings. Even the governments have been in contact with people from other systems, but they are not incarnated. They are still as an influence. Even the Nazis admitted that they were in contact. For instance, von Braun, I think he was asked where they were receiving the information, and he said that from those from above. I don't know, maybe that there is a sort of extraterrestrial humanoid race giving technology to humanity in order to promote their own timelines, which I think is what is taking place. They want to promote their own ideas and their own world in order to move humanity into a more technological system, which is the one used by many extraterrestrial races. But that's not the way of the tree of life. That's very deceiving. So there might be a development of technology but not necessarily in tune with the tree of life.
Yeah, it's a trip. Like the other day, I was getting into stargazing, and then I had this app where I could see where all the constellations are and the different stars and stuff. And it felt I was looking up and kind of getting into a meditative state, and it felt like, in a weird way, like some type of consciousness or message was coming from certain star systems that I was receiving, almost like something was trying to communicate. And then I was like, this is weird. I never felt this before. It wasn't anything extravagant. It was just a sense. And I was like, I bet you anything, it's we're probably populated to vastly out there. But yeah, I agree with you. A lot of stuff that we're receiving is like from dark sources or interdimensional communications. This is interesting too. Like, okay, so if there's other people like us on different planets, different star systems, and let's say maybe some of them are astral or spiritual in nature, they haven't, like what you said, incarnated. Would this mean that the Christ consciousness, the Messiah consciousness, would have to visit these different planets to give them knowledge, or he would just infuse himself into someone like Enoch or Noah again? How do you think that would work? How does the master, did he incarnate to these different planets as well?
Well, absolutely. That's why it's called the Melchizedek order. It's a universal order of masters of righteousness, which manifest from the primordial source without a human family, without a humanoid extraterrestrial family. It comes from the primordial family, we can say. But it must manifest in all planets because we are a body. So we have to take the information to all parts of the body. This is why we are called angels as well, messengers. It's like a brain functioning with neurotransmitters. We have neurons and then dendrites, extensions, the nerves through which electrical signals travel, but take that on a cosmic level. And then you get the whole functioning of mind, heart, and body. The mind is the sphere of the Father, the heart, the sphere of the Son, and the body, the sphere of the so-called Holy Spirit. Therefore, there is a unicity that must be connected to the universal mind. And the absolute would be the Holy One. That's, let's say, the unity, not the oneness, but the unity around which all oneness manifests. But within that body, there can be diseases, cancers, obstructions, just as we have a cancer or any other disease. This also takes place in this type of universe. Not in all universe, but in this type, we have processes of disease. So we need doctors and messengers in order to heal, to bring wholeness. That's the idea.
Order of Melchizedek, that's been coming up a lot. So like in the Bible, they talk about it, like Jesus talks about it, I believe, and a couple of others. And they said that even Jesus was following the order of Melchizedek, and that Melchizedek had no father, no mother, and no genealogy. What does that mean? Is he a spirit being, or is it more a representation of the divine I amness?
Yes, it means that it had no biological or earthly parents, no earthly genes, so to say, because the genes come from the primordial source, which is known as primordial father. We can speak of a divine family or primordial family, but those are functions. The father is the source and the one who plants the seeds. Then the mother is the generatrix where those seeds of life grow. The son is the essence of the mind, the loving mind, father growing within the life. And then we have the serenity, the daughter. That would be the Yud He Vav He. In Ephesians 4, Paulo, excuse me, I want to drink a bit of water.
That's right.
In Ephesians 4, I think Paulo says that all those who are called by his name, and he's referring to the Yud He Vav He, are families on heaven and on earth. Read that because it's very interesting what he says. Those who are called by his name. Therefore, we are a primordial family. And within that family, there are a specific group of beings which are destined to travel into planets and bring the righteousness, the right order, so that no one gets cancer in a spiritual sense. That's the order of Melchizedek. Melchi, Tzedek. Tzedek, Tzedakah, righteousness. Ki, energy. Melchi is associated to Malak, messenger, angel. Melech, which is master or king. I prefer master because otherwise we have Moloch, which is another pronunciation, and this is the god of destruction, of cannibalism. Right now on earth, many people are run by Moloch. There are warlocks that are cannibalizing the souls of people, and people also use their stomach as a sort of Moloch. We get controlled by lower passions and therefore get outside of the order, the true righteousness, because we forgot about our true purpose, our true divine life. So being in contact with the true order of Melchizedek is keeping ourselves in the right order. That's a very good translation, order, rather than justice, because justice sometimes is a bit restrictive, or it has violent connotations because of the way it's applied in our society. But
Yeah, for sure. The order is a much better term. So do you think, because some people there's an argument within evangelical circles that Melchizedek was a priest, or other people say no, he's a priest, but he's a very few. They talk about this, saying that he was a spirit being, but you're saying he more represents the order of the I amness, and he kind of more represents like the holy priesthood, but more the priesthood not in the overlord sense, but more like in the order. Is that what you're saying?
yes, it can be a brotherhood, like a family, but within the family there are those who represent the divine mind. Melchizedek is very much the divine mind acting through different people, or different beings, because Melchizedek is not a priest in the sense religious people think. Priest is a function related to a temple, and those are religious terms used from the carnal expression of the Torah. People didn't receive spiritual teachings, so they were given a stone law, a carnal expression of teachings that are more sublime. Therefore, religious people cannot understand this because they are in a carnal sense. So they need a priest, they need a temple, they need sacrifice, they need something to sacrifice. And therefore, they are in the old stone, they are in the matrix within the world of the warlocks, the sorcerers, the fallen beings. And that's not the order of Melchizedek. Actually, I think the true order of Melchizedek was distorted, even in the scripture, when it says that Abraham conquered and he defeated several kings, and then Melchizedek blessed him with bread and wine. Now, bread and wine was usually associated to different aspects. Sometimes it was associated to flesh and blood. Therefore, there you have the sacrifice, the fallen interpretation. In Egypt, for instance, they ate the flesh and blood, the bread and wine of Osiris. And remember when Abraham is asked to sacrifice his son, but then he is told to sacrifice just a ram. Those are just metaphors, codes, Kabbalistic codes for those who have more understanding, but people understood all that in a very religious way. Bread and wine, as an oath, can represent the elaboration of a soul with an essence. The wine requires a process of cultivation. This is why Noah planted a vineyard when he got out of the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark that was, sorry, not the Ark of the Covenant, but I think it's the name in English, where they spent 40 days and 40 nights over the waters. So these all are codes of the soul, of the cultivation of the soul. And there are specific masters, specific teachers that have been showing this wisdom to the people around in order to guide. And those belong to the order of Melchizedek. The man called Yeshua was the greatest because he was able to incarnate the Logos, the primordial intelligence. He was much greater than the manifestation of Enoch and Moshe. Enoch was the teacher of Moshe, the order around Enoch, because he was not alone. He was taken with several people, I think. And according to some ancient teachings, he was also Thoth, the god of wisdom. I don't know if that's an accurate comparison or attribution, but it might be the case. Thoth was Hermes, and Hermes was Adam. So Enoch was the seventh from Adam, the seventh generation. I think it was a rectification, a sort of perfect manifestation of Adam. And this is why he was called the son of Adam, the son of man. But Yeshua was called the second Adam, or the last Adam, because he was the new son of man. And this is why he is our teacher. He is our master, because he shows the way of manifesting the new Adam, which manifests after the flood and after all the period of darkness that we have experienced. In that sense, we can also learn from Metatron, from Enoch, but those teachings are incomplete. Metatron means the one who goes in front of the throne, or the one who has a wisdom, the custodian. Metatron comes from metatera in Chaldean language. So there were custodians of knowledge that were very important in ancient times, but right now we need a teaching that has more a compassionate approach, because we have to deal with people that cannot understand deep things. So we have to approach those who are in need, those who are hijacked by the dark forces. Therefore, there is an upgrade of the order of Melchizedek. There must be something that implies a greater humility. Before the flood, things were very different. The people like Enoch were much taller, much stronger, much wiser, because they knew things that we have forgotten, and their bodies, their brain functioned very differently as well. So this is all. Okay.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, it's okay.
Okay, I wanted to ask you, so what happens to all these lost souls that they don't, like, the verse that came up when you told me to look up different verses, the verse that popped up was and everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved, right? And that takes on a whole different meaning, understanding the order of Melchizedek, Enoch, the Merkaba, understanding the divine chariot, understanding Metatron. It takes on a whole different meaning. You're calling on the order of Melchizedek. You're calling upon that divine mind, that divine name. So those lost souls that are everywhere and in the cosmos and here, if someone helps them realize that, they can call on to that divine mind for assistance and help, and that's what would get them saved. Is that correct, or is that like a stretch?
Well,
But it still has to be cultivated too, huh? The divine Messiah would have to be inside them, and birth would have to be like inject. What's that called when artificially inseminated? It would have to be kind of like that, right? Where they kind of have to intercourse, if you will, with the Messiah in order to have that Messiah embryo implanted too, right?
yeah, we are meant to be the extensions of the Messiah, not separated from the head. We are the body of the Messiah, and our head is the universal intelligence, because there is only one intelligence. There is only one being. There cannot be separated souls acting as servants of a Lord. That's religion. The passage I was mentioning was not Ephesians 4, it was Ephesians 3 actually, which says, "For this reason I bow my knees before the Father, from whom every family in heaven and on earth is named." And what is that name? That name is the Tetragrammaton, which means being or existence manifested. The four letters would be love, life, light conscience, and serenity, but all united. Because in the fallen Tetragrammaton, in the false verb, which we could call the God Lord, the Lord God, the two heys are separated. The daughter and the mother are separated because souls get lost, and they invocate many names. They pray in the name of Jesus, and then they hate the neighbor. They pray in the name of Allah, and they go and kill their brothers. They go and meditate and become Buddhist, and they got involved into sexual scandals. So that's the way fallen life functions. People believe on many things, but then they don't manifest the true original intelligence of life, love, without modification. And this is what Paul is talking about, even in that passage that you mentioned. He who invokes the name is the Tetragrammaton in ourselves. We have to manifest the true love, true life, true conscience, and true serenity. Yud, Hei, Vav, Hei. That's the true meaning of the vibration, the name, the holy name, which is completely theologized, politicized, distorted. There is no such thing as Yahweh, Jehovah, Lord, or those fantastic names attributed by humans.
I've seen in one of your other videos too, which are fantastic, and people should check them out. And we'll talk about that later. But you talked about how Jews, Muslims can even have the divine Messiah realized in themselves. How is that possible?
Sorry, that they can't or they can?
I'm sorry? Say it one more time.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Oh, yeah. In one of your old videos, you mentioned how Jews, Muslims, Buddhists, different people of different faiths, different religions, different backgrounds, that they can have the divine Messiah realized within themselves, the divine embryo realized within themselves, and that this would connect them to the master, to the cosmic mind. How is that possible? Because, in Christian circles, they say, no, if they're not believing in Jesus and they don't ask them into his heart, then they're going straight to hell.
Well, of course, everyone can connect as long as they understand what true love is, what true life is, and what true conscience in serenity is. But once you realize, then the lies fall off. Then, for instance, Jews must realize that to be a true Yehudi, which is the name in Hebrew, means to be a vessel for that primordial law of life and light. That's the original meaning of the term Yehudi. And the teachings of the Buddha have nothing to do with Buddhism, because Buddha didn't teach about wearing robes and speaking about meditations to calm the mind with the breath. Buddha was talking about becoming aware of the free soul at man, which actually Buddhists deny because they don't understand the teaching of the Buddha. They say Buddha denied the Atman, but not the Atman is real. That's even in Hebrew wisdom. Adam had the divine breath of life, and that was the Atman of the Buddha. But this is just the body. Then we need the head, the connection with the primordial head, the divine mind, the divine brain, whatever we want to call it. It's a master. We are not servants of some king up above. We are the extensions of that intelligence. And this means to be the body of the Messiah. So everyone can realize that there is a connection with the primordial intelligence, the primordial logos. The funny thing is that you find all that in the scripture, but people just read what they are told, which are mistranslations of ancient concepts. But let's say that the main three lies of Peter are the denial of intelligence of true life in the sexual center, the heart, and the mind. And we find all those denials in Abrahamic religions, such as Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, because they all have killed, they all have abused people sexually, they all keep hating. So religion has to die in order to find the truth. Actually, this was the message of the Messiah when he told the woman in the well. She was, what was that? She professed a religion where they had the Father, and he said that there would come a time when they would worship the Father, not in Jerusalem, but within themselves. That was the implication.
Yeah, people don't
The
Oh,
Samaritan woman,
I'm sorry. You broke up. I thought you stopped talking. You broke up. Go ahead. You can complete your sentence with the Sumerian woman.
Yeah, it was the Samaritan woman. They had 5 spiritual husbands, and he was implying that she had to be connected to the true Messiah, which is the true husband of humanity, the true intelligence, the true I amness, if you will.
Wow, some things you say, Fernando, even through email and even right now, it just resonates with my soul. But not just that, it's truly higher understanding and higher wisdom that you only get from the divine source. You cannot get this kind of wisdom from serpents, from snakes. That's pretty amazing, because I've been telling people that too. The Bible's not a rule book. It's more of an esoteric like blueprint, maybe like a thumbprint of God, if you will, in simple terms, in layman's terms, just so people understand it's not a rule book. Because once you believe it's a rule book, it limits you from all higher spiritual understanding that you could receive, just like what Fernando's receiving constantly. Like, a normal pastor right now reading the Bible, teaching that would obviously go to condemnation, would go to the Samaritan woman. Oh, she had this sin and this, that. And the way you laid it out was perfect and completely resonating from source, completely vibrating at a higher, elevated, beyond, I like to say beyond frequency now. But yeah, that's pretty deep. I never thought of that verse that way. And right when you said it, it totally resonated with my soul. So I don't want to take all your time. I think we covered a lot of things, and it's amazing, because right now especially in this time period, in this time and space. Like, if you think about the timeline as a general, the great now, the great present moment, in this time and space right now, we are going through a big transition. But just like what you said, there's like a graph, if you will, and there's like a red line or a black line that's going downwards, and those are the people that, refuse to go into the I amness, and they suffer their own choosing, their own devices. And then there's like a green arrow, if you will, going upwards, of people who are realizing the truth in all things and are going upwards and will ascend. And I truly believe we'll have the real Merkaba, the real raptures, the real Enoch consciousness, if you will. But I sense too that the people on the red graph going down, I believe that that's more evil, that's more deception, but it's also more their own judgment. They stack up their judgment against themselves. But I'm glad that we're realizing this, and that people that are listening, well, you've realized this for a long time, but maybe in the past year, I've been, the transformation, it's almost like my soul knows the answers, and my soul and higher self, or my beyond self, connected to the tree of lives, is reminding me who I truly am, reminding me. That's another synchronicity I keep getting, is the word remember. Like, remember where you came from, remember your origin, remember, memory keeps popping up. Actually, real quick, Fernando, before I close, have you heard of Alex Jones?
Yes.
He's the host from InfoWars. A lot of people hate him right now. Basically, there's a lot of misinformation out there regarding him, my opinion. And but he's had these trippy experiences he's described on the Joe Rogan podcast and other interviews he's done, where he said he's had these wild dreams where he's like out in space, deep in space, and then he says he'll get messages saying, remember where we came from, remember the origins of the universe, where did we come from, remember where we came from. And he says he would be taken out to the edge of infinity, and then he would look down and see this like giant void or giant black hole, and he would have to go inside it to get out of the matrix, I think. What do you think's going on there? And he had these dreams when he was younger, when he was like a kid. Obviously, he has a purpose right now with everything going on. What do you think he was seeing there? Was that him hacking out of the matrix, his higher self?
Well, that may be a sort of vortex experience. Some people report having gone through a sort of void, but I don't think that's necessarily a void that leads to the true light. Maybe it's a void that leads to a sort of recycling, like people experiencing the tunnel after having some near-death experience. And some people report this tunnel where there is a light and they meet their family members and deathbed. That can all be a trap. I don't know that experience he had, but the message a person gives explains who this person is. So if he's talking about the tree of life and connecting, helping people in a more illumined way, then he might be connected to something real. Otherwise, he would be just going down the rabbit hole.
He might be kind of psychic too, huh? And just entering some astral dimensions or something too.
Yes.
All right. I think we'll end it here. It was a great episode. For anyone, Fernando, that wants to follow your work, follow your YouTube channel, or follow you online, where can they find you?
Well, they can find me in the blog. I publish articles very often in themusicofwisdom.blogspot.com. Then I have a YouTube channel called EnaArmony, even though people call me Fernando ENArmony all together. But it's easy to find. Then I'm opening a new web called Vital Enharmonia. There is also a channel called Vital Enharmonia where I'm starting to publish a course on inner knowledge, soul therapy. It's going to be very easy to follow. It's short videos. And I'm going to start publishing videos on English as well this week. So there I'll be announcing anything that's coming up.
Sweet, sweet. All right, guys. So this is the All Seeing One podcast, and my name's Kyle J. Macias.